Hello students, you are welcome to the session 10 of this course, NSC 207. In this session, we are going to have discussion on what we have discussed before, briefly. This is what we call susceptibility to infection. How can a man susceptible to infection? I have told you before that when you talk of susceptibility, it means there are some factors in that man that will make him be at risk of contacting infection. Now, what we mean by this word is degree of ability of being influenced by or involved in pathologic processes produced by microorganisms and or their toxin. It means there must be some factors that are presented in this particular man that will make him susceptible to developing infection. Like we have said, these factors might be medical, might be lifestyle risk, might be travel risk, like we have mentioned in the previous chapter. But when you are through with this study session, you should be able to explain the relationship between the susceptible host and risk factors. To discuss susceptible individuals, a mathematical model of calculating susceptibility. Then you should know how immunosuppression results to increase susceptibility. Susceptible hosts are individuals who are likely to develop communicable disease after exposure to the infectious agent. Factors that increase susceptibility of a host to communicable disease are called risk factors. So risk factors are those factors that increase the susceptibility of an individual to developing a communicable disease. Now, we look at differences in susceptibility between species. Whether a pathogen can cause disease in a host, it depends on not only on the virulence of the pathogen, but also on genetic background and health of the host. This we have mentioned before that the health of that host and genetic background play a major role in how that individual becomes susceptible to infection. This may be related to many factors. Resistant hosts may lack a cellular receptor required by the pathogen for attachment and penetration of the host. Also, temperature of the host may play a role that may preclude the growth of potential pathogen. Like tuberculosis organism does not cause illness in frogs, since it cannot grow well at temperature much below 37 degrees centigrade. So, let us see that individuals within a species can exhibit different susceptibility or resistance to pathogen when compared to others. That is, you are within a same species, that is man to man, may be infected with the same microorganism. One will be infected with diseases, whereby one will have resistance against that diseases. So, the age of, if we talk of man, for example, as a species, the age of that man is a factor, because people of very young age who have immature immunity and those old age which their organ have become degenerative could not have resistance to infection like you have other people that we have resistance. Apart from that, apart from the age, you can talk of some other factors like stress in form of extreme exertion, which will make man to react to infection the other person differently. You can have changing environment, climate change, nervousness, or much fatigue can have negative effects on your health. So these are factors that may make the same species to actually react to the situation differently, and therefore will affect the way they will have their health. When you talk of susceptible individual, they have been exposed to neither the wide strain of the disease nor a vaccination against it, and thus have not developed immunity. That is, if you want to talk of somebody who is susceptible now, it means he has not been infected by that disease before, or that he has not been vaccinated against it before. So he's very susceptible because there is no way he could have developed immunity against that disease. It means immunity is developed by either contracting that infection for once or by getting vaccination against that infection. That's what they call susceptible individual. That individual will easily catch infection because he has not been immune one way or the other against that infection. Let's look at this mathematical model of calculating susceptibility to infection. That S stands for susceptibility, of course. A stands for the age of that individual we are talking about, and L you have there is the average life expectancy of that population. For example, if I'm 40 years of age and the expectancy of life in Nigeria is 70, I'll be 40/70, which means I'm subject to infection at the rate of 4/7. That is what this one is talking about. So you should find the means of calculating mathematically how susceptible you are to particular kind of infection. So like I've said, when you look at this, it's a better way of calculating how susceptible a man is to a particular form of infection. And then it's found that time spent as a susceptible is A all over L. A operation with a rectangular distribution. So you must know the life expectancy of your population before you calculate how susceptible you are to a particular form of infection. So apart from that, let's look at immunosuppression and how it leads to increased susceptibility to infection. Many factors increase susceptibility of immunosuppressed patients to infection. Because anybody with immunity has what it takes to fight infection. But when this immunity has gone down, then that person is exposed to various forms of infection. And this factors are many that can suppress one's immunity. For example, like I've said earlier on, some people who are on drugs like steroid drugs or chemotherapy, they are bound to have immunosuppression. And there is this another factor that we have is that when the immune system does not fight tumor or have substances as they should, it will become overactive or underactive. People that have immunodeficiency disorders like HIV/AIDS are at risk of developing what we call opportunistic infection. That is something that will normally not have occurred if not for the suppression of that man's immunity. So anything that you see that can affect the immunity of an individual which makes that person susceptible to infection. This can occur in two ways. It could be congenital or it could be acquired. Congenital means that person is born with some factors that are inimical to development of immunity of that individual. We call it congenital immunosuppression. This can be inherited and can occur by various factors that affect B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, or affect both B and T lymphocytes. The baby is born with it, and that will go a long way in affecting the ability of that baby to infection. Also, we talk of acquired immunosuppression, like I've said earlier on, can be caused by side effects of medication. Side effects of medication. I've mentioned some of them, like steroids suppresses immunity. Diseases like HIV/AIDS suppresses immunity. When the spleen has been removed, or what we call splenectomy, the spleen is an organ of immune system. When we get to immunity as a topic, if you see what I'm talking about, there are some organs of immunity. Spleen is one of them. When spleen is removed, it makes those materials that are immune in nature produced by spleen will not produce again, and that individual is exposed to various forms of infection. Increasing age, like we have said, reduces effectiveness of the immune system to some degree, because those tissues that develop, that are elephant in development of immune system in the body, will become degenerated, they become shrinking, and they can no longer produce enough materials they produced before. Like lymphoid tissue that you have in thymus, a number of white blood cells will drop in their activities with age. That is why increasing in age will cause acquired immunosuppression. Malnutrition is a factor. If there is no adequate nutrition intake, there will not be enough materials to build up this immunity, because they are proteinous in nature. So this person will become, who is malnourished, will be immunosuppressed, as this immunity will not be developed. Then medical conditions like diabetes mellitus will suppress immunity, and will make an individual to become immune suppressed and be susceptible to infection. Now we have seen from our studies how all those factors interrelate, how immunity is developed, and how immunosuppression can cause infection. By the time we go on in our lectures on SS10, we shall discuss immunity itself, how they are formed, and how they are effective in combating infection in human body. Until when we meet in the next class, students, the next area to stop our lecture on this study session. We see you the next class for another interesting topic on microbiology. Thank you for listening.